Hello, this is Tim Dodge. I'm serving as SELA president for 2019-2020. I have the privilege of interviewing past president Judith Gibbons, who served in 2005 to 2006. Judith, I've got several questions I'm going to be asking of you. So let's start with the first one. Discuss your background in libraries.
Well, Tim, I grew up in a family of library users, and my mom was also a volunteer in my elementary school library. A few years after receiving my undergraduate degree, a friend and I decided to move to New York City, and I got there first. It was pouring rain, so I decided to go to the New York Public Library at 42nd Street and 5th Avenue to read the New York Times. When I went inside, I looked for periodicals and I saw personnel. So I wandered into the personnel office. They had just taken off a hiring freeze that day, and I got hired at the princely salary of $5,200 a year. I stayed at New York Public for a few years, and I was promoted to an information assistant, which was a paraprofessional library position. And then I reverse commuted to the Bronx. After a bit, I was laid off, as often happens with large cities, particularly New York. And then I had a convoluted series of jobs that were really fit for a 20-something on a TV sitcom. I worked as a photo finishing delivery driver. I worked as a candy apple factory worker, and I worked in a department store. So I decided it was time to make a real career change and find a career. So I decided to go to library school, and I applied to 2 schools in the South, because at that time, the economy was booming in the South, and it was pretty sad in the Northeast. So I sent in my applications, and the first school I heard from was the University of Kentucky. And I had never been in Kentucky, but I sent my check in for $25 and loaded up my car and headed south. And I never regretted that. After that, I had a few jobs. I worked part-time at King Library at the University of Kentucky, and at the reference department at Lexington Public Library's old Carnegie Library. And I was extremely lucky to be in a town with a library school. I got hired by Lexington Public Library when I finished graduate school. I worked at 2 branches in Lexington. And then after 6 years, I received a position as director of Woodford County Library, which is the county that I live in Kentucky. And I stayed there for almost 14 years. And then I went to my final full-time job at Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives, where I served as Field Services Division Director. And now I teach for the University of Kentucky. I do a regular column for marketing library services, and I do a few odds and ends in the profession just to keep busy.
Thank you. Question number 2. Describe your history with SELA, such as your first involvement, positions held, and other service.
I think my first involvement with SELA started when Ellen Hellard was recruiting members for the organization. And she was a tremendous promoter of SELA when she was the Kentucky rep and also as a SELA member. And she introduced me to Charles Beard. And I believe Charles made my first appointment on a committee for SELA. Over the years, I served in numerous capacities. One of the fun events was when I co-chaired the conference in Lexington in 1996. And here's the Southeastern librarian from that year. And the theme was the winning ticket, Southern Libraries. I also chaired the 2004 conference with Mark Pumphrey, who represented North Carolina Library Association. And for many years after I was president, I served as legislative committee chair for SELA.
Thank you. Would you talk about your time as president of SELA? For instance, could you share any major accomplishments, initiatives, or challenges you faced while president?
I was president in 2005 and 2006. And one of the major achievements during that time was that we were working on a multi-year review and redoing our strategic plan. And this was a real benefit for the association because we tried to extend outreach to students and to library schools. We worked with the state chapters to try to strengthen our relationships. We streamlined the organizational chart, and we tried to make participation for members more accessible. The key was we tried to think strategically for the present and also for the future. I think the real lasting contribution that I made was late Carolyn Tassi of Transylvania University and I were on a committee of 2 to find the next editor for the Southeastern Librarian. We were very pleased because we hired Perry Bratcher, and as you know, Perry still continues in that role.
Thank you. Let's see, our next question. As you gaze into your crystal ball, what advice do you have for SELA to remain relevant during the next 10, 25, or 50 years?
We really need to be vigilant to promote librarianship as a profession. As librarianship evolves, we need to be engaged and we need to be proactive. We really need to continue to advocate and also get involved and stay involved with professional development and mentoring potential future librarians. I think it's vital for us to be involved in our state, our regional, and our national associations because the strength of SELA has always been and will always be its members. Tim, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. We've got one more question, actually.
Oh.
Do you have any other comments or stories about SELA that you would like to share?
I think the spirit of camaraderie really permeates SELA. Over the years, so many SELA colleagues became friends. And when I would attend conferences, it was often like going to a giant family reunion. We would catch up professionally and personally. There were so many wonderful times where we would attend incredible programs. We would have unbelievable dining experiences and so many opportunities to grab a quick coffee or a drink with a colleague. Throughout my career, I received so much from participating in state, regional, and national organizations. It was an opportunity to broaden my horizons, enrich my life, and it did it both personally and professionally. And I hope for those of you who watch this that SELA does the same for you.
Thank you very much. We've just heard from Judith Gibbons, who served as SELA president in 2005-2006. I'm Tim Dodge, SELA president for 2019-2020. Thank you very much, Judith.